The day Luna died, it didn't rain. The scorching summer sun seemed to incinerate everything. Through the hospital room window, it shone upon my sister Luna's pale, lifeless face. I stood there in the hospital hallway, reeking of disinfectant, clutching my phone that had just delivered the devastating news. My mind was blank, my ears ringing, hearing only the cicadas' heartbreaking cries from outside. My mother, where was she? She was busy with her new family, with her new husband's precious son. She called me, her voice rushed, mixed with annoyance at being disturbed rather than grief. "Selena, go check on your sister." Mom's busy." That busy felt so light, yet it crushed the last sliver of hope in me. From the day she remarried, my sisters and my world was torn apart. I went abroad with Dad, while Luna, my kind, gentle little sister, was left behind like an old forgotten toy. She feared Luna's existence would displease her new family, that people would gossip. So Luna had to live alone in our old, dilapidated house. I rushed back to the country like a madwoman. When I arrived, what greeted me wasn't my mother's embrace, but a cold urn of ashes. "I'm sorry, I'm still too late." I received the urn like a ghost. The police said, "My sister committed suicide." They found her in the bathtub, the water a sickening deep red, deep, cruel cuts on her wrists. Depression due to academic pressure. That's what they concluded. Academic pressure? Ridiculous. My Luna, though a little introverted, was always optimistic. She loved painting, gentle piano music, and always dreamed of a bright future. In Luna's cluttered room, I found her diary. Page after page, soaked with tears. Not the idle musings of a teenager, but desperate cries for help buried in silence. Today, Chloe poured dirty water into my paint box again. She said I don't deserve to paint. Jason ripped up my homework in front of the whole class. He laughed, calling me useless. Olivia told everyone I was a freak, that no one should play with me. Why? What did I do wrong? Sarah, my only friend, why are you on their side too? Why did you steal my design and claim it as yours? Each name, each cruel act flashed before my eyes. Chloe, Jason, Olivia, Sarah, and so many others. They were the devils who pushed my sister into hell. They used words, bullying acts that seemed like childish pranks, to slowly kill an innocent soul. And my mother. In her diary, Luna mentioned her only once. "I called Mom so many times, but she didn't pick up, she must be busy." My heart felt like someone was crushing it. I hugged Luna's urn to my chest. Its coldness seeped through my skin, straight into my soul. I was wrong. I had trusted too much that Mom would care for her. I was too absorbed in my new life abroad, forgetting that my twin sister was fighting the whole world alone. That night, I stood before the mirror. In the reflection was a girl with long chestnut hair, sharp eyes, dressed in designer clothes. This was Selena, but from tomorrow, Selena would be no more. I took the scissors and chopped off my long hair, each strand falling like a severed piece of my past. I exchanged the expensive dress for a faded white t-shirt and jeans, exactly Luna's style. I removed my contact lenses and put on the large, black-framed glasses Luna always wore. Finally, I looked in the mirror. A face identical to Luna's, but the eyes no longer held gentle innocence. Instead, there was coldness, a raging fire of hatred. "Luna, I'm back. I'll live this life for you. I'll go back to that hellish school, using your identity to make every single person who harmed you pay the highest price. The pain you suffered, I'll return it to them 1,000-fold." The elite high school was still the same, still dazzling and glamorous under the morning sun. But in my eyes now, that beauty was just a facade for the rot within. I walked through the school gates in an oversized uniform, thick black-rimmed glasses covering half my face, my short, unruly hair making me look even more eccentric. This was Luna's image in everyone's eyes. I could feel eyes staring at me. Whispers buzzed like a disturbed beehive. "Look, isn't that Luna?" I thought she dropped out. I heard she tried to end her life, didn't succeed, talk about tough. Look how pathetic she looks, why'd she come back, just to be laughed at again? I tightened my backpack straps, my nails digging into my skin. "Calm down, Selena. You're not Luna, you're not that weak." What are these words compared to the pain my sister endured? I held my head high and walked straight towards the classroom, ignoring the prying eyes. The door to class 11A1 appeared before me. This was my stage. I pushed the door open. The noisy classroom instantly fell silent. Every eye, without exception, was fixed on me. In the back corner of the room, the four of them were also staring. Chloe, the rich girl with stylish curled hair, smirked, her eyes full of disdain. Jason, the spoiled brat, sat next to her with his feet on the desk, a defiant, arrogant look on his face. Olivia, the resident rumor-monger, whispered something into Chloe's ear, and they both burst into laughter. And Sarah, my sister's best friend. She sat there, head bowed, not daring to look me in the eye. A flicker of complex emotion crossed her gaze, perhaps guilt, perhaps fear. Without a word, I silently walked towards the empty desk at the back of the class, the desk that once belonged to Luna. As I passed Chloe's spot, she suddenly stretched out her leg. A blatant trip. If it had been the old Luna, she would surely have stumbled and become the class's laughingstock. But I was Selena. The moment her leg extended, I stopped. I bent down, looked directly at her branded high heels, then looked up into her eyes. My own eyes, behind the thick glasses, were cold and devoid of emotion. "Careful," I said, my voice flat, emotionless. "Such beautiful shoes. It would be a shame if I accidentally stepped on them and got them dirty." Chloe froze. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to react like that. Her disdainful expression briefly turned to surprise, then quickly reverted to her usual arrogance. "What did you say?" she scoffed, raising her voice, trying to regain the upper hand. "Someone like you even knows what beautiful shoes are?" "Of course not," I replied, maintaining my tone. "I only know that some things look beautiful on the outside, but are full of garbage on the inside." With that, I didn't spare her another glance, stepped past her leg, and walked straight to my seat. The entire class fell silent once more. But this time, the silence held a different meaning. It was no longer curiosity, but astonishment. Chloe's face flushed with anger. She stood up abruptly, about to say something, but Jason pulled her back down. "Come on," he shrugged. "Why bother with her? She probably has brain damage from that failed suicide attempt." I heard everything. I set my backpack down on the desk, slowly sitting down at the wooden surface covered in scratches and crude insults. "Useless. Get lost. Why don't you just die?" I gently ran my fingers over those words. The fire of anger flared within me again, but my face remained expressionless. I took out my books, pretending to read, but in reality I was observing each person. Who had laughed, who had joined in, who had remained silently complicit. I memorized them all. During break, Sarah cautiously approached my desk. "Luna, you're back." I looked up at her, her delicate face and large, round eyes looking so harmless. Who would have thought this very person had stolen my sister's design, pushing her one step closer to the abyss? "Yeah," I replied curtly. Are you okay?" she stammered, avoiding my gaze. "Do you think I'm okay?" I countered, my voice as cold as ice. Sarah flinched, taking a step back. She didn't dare say anything more, turning quickly to leave. As if I were a monster. "Good, keep being afraid. The play has only just begun. Chloe, Jason, Olivia, Sarah, one by one, I will make you experience everything my sister endured. I will strip away your perfect masks so everyone can see the ugly, cruel faces within. Today was just a gentle greeting. From tomorrow, the real retribution begins." My first target, Olivia. In Luna's diary, Olivia was described as a toxic loudspeaker. She didn't use physical violence, but her words were sharper than daggers. She was the one who fabricated the story that Luna was mentally ill, labeling Luna as a freak, turning my sister into an outcast at school. Olivia reveled in the pain of others, and her greatest weapon was rumors. So I would use that very weapon to destroy her. I knew Olivia's weakness. She always pretended to be an elite student from a prestigious family, but in reality, her background was very ordinary. Her parents worked tirelessly just to get her into this elite school, so she always lived with an inferiority complex, terrified of others discovering the truth. Academic achievement was the only thing she could cling to appear superior, and I would snatch that away from her. The following week, there was an important math test, carrying a significant weight for the semester grade. This was my chance. For several days, I pretended to be distracted, occasionally pulling out a scrap of paper scribbled with formulas, glancing at it, then putting it away. I deliberately let Olivia, who sat in front of me, catch me in this suspicious act several times. Just as I predicted, she took the bait. Her curious and suspicious eyes were always glued to me. On the last day before the exam, during self-study, I accidentally dropped a small piece of paper from my book. I pretended not to notice, continuing to engross myself in reading. Olivia, sitting in front after a moment of hesitation, stealthily used her foot to nudge the paper towards herself, snatched it up like lightning, and hid it inside her desk. A cold smile subtly curved my lips behind my glasses. The fish had taken the bait. That paper, of course, was a meticulously prepared decoy. On it were detailed solutions to 5 of the most difficult math problems, the exact types of questions sure to appear on the exam. The only catch? All the answers were wrong. I had intentionally altered the numbers and crucial steps in the solutions to lead to a completely erroneous result. But at a glance, it would be very difficult to detect. On the day of the exam, I sat calmly, taking my test. Occasionally, I glanced up. Olivia was diligently copying. Her face was triumphant, convinced she would score perfectly. When the bell rang, signaling the end of the exam, she was one of the first to submit, her face radiant with confidence. She didn't forget to shoot me a provocative glance as if to say, "Let's see what you can do this time." I simply packed my things in silence. The best part was yet to come. The day the test results were returned arrived. The entire class was utterly silent. The math teacher walked in, his face serious. "This time, the results of our class's test are very disappointing," he said, his voice sharp. "Especially one case I simply cannot comprehend. Olivia." The whole class turned to stare at Olivia. She flinched, her face paling. "Stand up. Why did you make basic errors in all the most difficult problems?" The approach seemed correct, but the results were ridiculously wrong. "You got 2 points. Do you understand what 2 points means?" 2 points. Those 2 words exploded like a bomb in the classroom. Everyone began to whisper. Olivia's face was as white as paper. She stood rooted to the spot, stammering, unable to speak. Her usual confidence and arrogance had vanished without a trace. "Not yet, my play isn't over." I raised my hand. "Sir, perhaps she's under a lot of pressure. The other day she didn't look very well. I heard her family is also going through a difficult time. She works part-time to help support them while studying. She must be exhausted, and it's affecting her academics." I spoke with an air of genuine goodwill and sympathy, but every word I uttered was like a knife twisting straight into Olivia's pride. "Part-time job, difficult family." Everyone whispered back and forth, the chatter growing louder this time. Their gazes at Olivia were now mixed not just with surprise, but with pity and even contempt. The facade of the studious young lady she had worked so hard to build for so long had completely crumbled in mere minutes. Olivia stared at me, her eyes bloodshot, full of rage and disbelief. She trembled, then suddenly shrieked, "It's you! You did this to me!" Then she lunged at me like a squirrel. But Jason was a step faster, holding her back. "Are you crazy? Haven't you caused enough trouble?" Olivia collapsed, sobbing hysterically, overwhelmed by shame, anger, and despair. I sat in my seat, calmly observing the chaotic scene. My gaze swept over Chloe and Jason. They were also looking at me, but their eyes no longer held contempt. Instead, there was caution, a vague fear. "Olivia, this is just the appetizer. The pain you're experiencing isn't even 1/10 of what my sister suffered. 1 down, 3 to go." Because of Olivia's incident, the atmosphere in the class became strange. No one dared to openly tease or bully me anymore. Instead, there were wary glances, whispers behind my back. They were starting to fear me. Good. Fear was the first step in the retribution I planned for them. My next target, Jason. This spoiled rich kid was the most prone to violence. In Luna's diary, she recounted countless times Jason had pushed her, ripped her books, or thrown balls at her during gym class. He reveled in seeing my sister cower in fear, treating it as entertainment, a way to assert his dominance. Jason's weakness was his towering ego and his passion for basketball. He considered himself the king of the court, the star of the school team. Anyone who humiliated him, especially in the field he was most proud of, would drive him insane. And I would be the one to crush that pride. That week during gym class, the entire class gathered on the basketball court. Jason, as usual, was the center of attention. He executed 3-pointers, dazzling dribbles to the cheers of the crowd, especially Chloe's. I stood in a corner of the court, quietly warming up. Abroad, I was a key player on my school's girls' basketball team. My physical abilities and skills far surpassed anything a high school student like Jason could imagine. While Jason was performing an arrogant dunk, I accidentally ran past. The ball bounced off the rim, rolling towards me. He whistled, motioning for me to throw the ball back. "Hey, bookworm, throw the ball over here." I picked up the ball, but instead of throwing it back, I stood there, performing a few basic dribbling moves. Jason frowned, clearly annoyed. "Are you deaf? Throw the ball over here." I stopped, hugging the ball, and looked him straight in the eye. If you want it, come get it yourself. The entire court fell silent. Everyone knew Jason hated being challenged. He strode towards me, his face menacing. Are you tired of living? He growled, reaching to snatch the ball. I was a beat faster, sidestepping him. The ball remained securely in my hands. Jason lost his balance, almost falling. A few snickers erupted, and his face turned crimson with anger and embarrassment. You sickly freak, how dare you? I cut him off, my voice sharp. Don't you dare play a proper game. Or are you afraid of losing to a girl? My words were like a fuse igniting a powder keg. Lose to you? Ridiculous, he scoffed. Fine, 1-on-1, first to 5 points wins. If you lose, you have to kneel down and lick my shoes in front of the whole school. Agreed, I replied curtly. And if you lose, you'll do the same. Jason burst into laughter as if he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. Keep dreaming, the game began. He had the first possession. He charged at me, intending to overpower me with brute force, but I understood these strength-reliant fools too well. I maintained my distance, moving flexibly. When he jumped to shoot, I leaped higher, my hands sweeping up, *bam, a perfect block. The ball bounced far away. Jason was stunned, and the entire court gasped in astonishment. The ball was mine. I didn't give him any chances. Speed, skill, precision. I dribbled past him as easily as a stroll, a long-range shot. 1-0. He started taking it seriously, but it was too late. The more he tried, the more openings he revealed. I stole the ball again. This time, I didn't shoot immediately. I dribbled circles around him like a cat toying with a mouse. He lunged, I sidestepped. He spun around, and I was already behind him. 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. With every point I scored, Jason's arrogance chipped away, replaced by panic and disbelief. The cheers that were initially for him had completely died down. All eyes were on me, the weak bookworm, tormenting the king of the court. When the score was 4-0, I had the ball. I stood facing him. He was panting, drenched in sweat, his eyes filled with rage and helplessness. This shot, I said, my voice just loud enough for only us two to hear, is for all of Luna's notebooks you ripped up. With that, I leaped a perfect arc. The ball swished into the hoop effortlessly. 5-0, the game was over. I stood there, watching Jason, frozen in the middle of the court, his pride, his image, all shattered into pieces. Time to fulfill your promise, I announced loudly for everyone to hear. Jason gritted his teeth, his hands clenched. He looked at me as if he wanted to devour me alive, but under the 100 pairs of staring eyes, he couldn't back down. He humiliatingly knelt down. I taunted, try to lick them clean. My shoes are very expensive. After saying that, I looked towards Chloe. Her face no longer showed arrogance, but sheer terror. 2 down, 2 to go. Jason's downfall had sown a palpable fear among Chloe's group. Olivia had requested a long-term leave of absence, rumored to be due to a nervous breakdown. Jason was sullen, no longer daring to provoke anyone. Now, in their eyes, I was no longer the weak Luna, but a ghost returned to collect a debt. Only 2 remained, Chloe, the mastermind, and Sarah, the betrayer. I decided to deal with Sarah first. Compared to Chloe's cruelty, Sarah's betrayal was the fatal stab to my sister's tender heart. Why, Sarah? We were best friends. That question echoed repeatedly in Luna's diary, soaked in pain and disbelief. Sarah's greatest weapon was her pretense and envy. She was jealous of Luna's artistic talent, so she stole my sister's most heartfelt design to enter the all-school fashion design competition. The very competition they had once promised to shine in together. And now, that competition was being held once again. I knew Sarah would definitely participate. Last time, she used Luna's design to win first prize. This time, to prove she wasn't just lucky, she would try even harder. I also registered to participate. News of Luna participating in the design competition quickly spread. Everyone was curious, wondering what an eccentric like me could possibly do. When Sarah heard the news, her face clearly showed a hint of panic, but she quickly composed herself. Perhaps she thought I was just foolishly trying to grab attention. I spent all my free time in the art room. I didn't draw lavish, complex designs. Instead, I meticulously recreated Luna's style, soft lines, clear pastel colors, and especially the spider lily motif, my sister's favorite flower. A flower symbolizing separation and painful memories, but I elevated it to another level, more exquisite, more soulful. A few days before the finals, I blocked Sarah's path in the quiet hallway. Long time no talk, I began, my voice calm. She flinched, taking a step back. What do you want? Nothing, I smiled, a smile devoid of warmth, just reminiscing. Remember how we used to sit here, sketching together, dreaming about this competition? Sarah's face paled. I stepped closer, whispering into her ear, "Is your design beautiful this time, or is it another dream you stole from someone else?" She trembled violently, stammering, I don't know what you're talking about." Then she quickly ran away. Watching her panicked back, I knew the seeds of fear and guilt had sprouted. On the day of the finals, the auditorium was packed. Sarah walked onto the stage in a stunning emerald green gown. Her design was beautiful, eye-catching, receiving countless compliments from the judges. She gradually regained her confidence, smiling radiantly, her eyes darting towards me with triumph. Finally, it was my turn. I didn't rush to present. I walked to the center of the stage, holding the microphone. "Before I introduce my design," I said, my voice echoing through the auditorium, "I want to tell a story. A story about two best friends, about a promise, and about a stolen dream." The entire hall fell silent. My eyes fixed directly on Sarah, her face was drained of all color. That friend once said her greatest talent wasn't painting, but having a best friend who always stood by her. But then, that very best friend stole her dream, trampled on their friendship, and contributed to pushing her to her death. I paused, letting the silence settle, then I turned towards the large screen. And here is the evidence. On the screen wasn't my design, but a series of photographs of every page from Luna's sketchbook. The initial strokes, the unfinished ideas for the emerald green gown Sarah was wearing. And finally, a short video clip from the library's surveillance camera showing Sarah secretly taking that sketchbook from Luna's bag. Irrefutable evidence. The entire auditorium erupted in whispers, gasps of astonishment and contempt directed at Sarah. "No, it's not," she shrieked in panic, tears streaming down her face. "She framed me, it's all her." But no one believed her anymore. The dazzling gown she wore now seemed like living proof of her guilt. She collapsed on stage, sobbing uncontrollably. The dream she had stolen had now become the nightmare that destroyed her life. I didn't present my own design. I quietly put down the microphone, turned, and walked backstage, leaving behind a chaotic stage and a thief exposed for her crimes. My gaze swept across the audience, stopping where Chloe sat. She looked at me, no longer with terror, but with an extreme hatred. She knew she was next, only one left. The entire elite high school plunged into an earthquake after Sarah's incident. 3 members of the school's most powerful clique had fallen one by one in spectacular fashion. Now, only Chloe remained, isolated at the peak of her crumbling prestige. The crowd that once fawned over her now dispersed as if avoiding evil. She had become a lonely queen sitting on a collapsing throne. But Chloe was different from the other 3. She was not only arrogant, but also cruel and intelligent. She knew I was targeting her. Instead of panicking, she became even more dangerous, like an animal backed into a corner. A few days later, I was called to the principal's office. In the room, besides the pale-faced principal, there was a middle-aged man in an expensive suit with an imposing aura. It was Mr. Kim, Chloe's father, a renowned businessman in the city and the school's biggest sponsor. "Luna," the principal said, wiping his brow with difficulty, "there have been many unpleasant incidents involving you recently. Mr. Kim here wants to ask you a few things." Mr. Kim said nothing, merely tossing a file onto the desk. "This is your enrollment record in England. Selena, correct?" My heart gave a slight jolt, but my expression remained calm. "I don't understand what you're talking about, sir." "Don't understand?" he sneered, a smile identical to his daughter's. "A depressed student who almost committed suicide suddenly returns to school, becomes a basketball ace, a psychological expert, and even a hacker exposing others. Do you think I'm stupid? Tell me, what's your motive?" Chloe had investigated me. She didn't believe in Luna's sudden transformation and had asked her father to use his influence to uncover the truth. I looked him straight in the eye, unflinching. "My motive? You should ask your precious daughter what she did. They were just childish pranks." Mr. Kim slammed his hand on the desk. "Because of those trivial things, you've thrown the entire school into chaos. I'll give you 2 choices. 1, you immediately leave this school and go back to your England. 2, I will make sure you can't live peacefully in this country." This was Chloe's weapon, power and money. She believed everything could be solved with those 2 things, but she was wrong. I slowly took out my phone and played a recording. "Mr. Kim, would you like to hear our recent conversation again? Especially the part where you threatened a minor student. I think reporters would be very interested in it." Mr. Kim's face immediately changed. He hadn't expected me to dare record him. "And this," I continued, opening another file on my phone and pushing it towards him. "Fake financial reports of Dat Company, money laundering contracts with shell companies abroad, evidence of bribing officials to win project bids. Do you think these things are enough to bring your family to utter ruin?" This was my fatal blow. All this time, I hadn't just been planning revenge at school. I had used my hacking skills to infiltrate Mr. Kim's company systems. His facade as a successful businessman was too perfect, but inside, it was a festering nest of corruption. Mr. Kim stared at the phone screen, his face deathly pale, his hands starting to tremble. His earlier imposing demeanor had vanished without a trace. Why do you have these things?" he stammered. "You don't need to know." I stood up, put away my phone. "I'll give your daughter 2 choices as well. 1, at the upcoming year-end ceremony, she must stand before the entire school, recount everything she did to my sister Luna, and apologize. 2, all these documents will be sent to the prosecutor's office and the largest newspapers." I turned and walked out the door, leaving Mr. Kim silently sitting in his chair. The final battle wasn't a physical confrontation, but a game of wits, and I had delivered checkmate. At the year-end ceremony, the entire school gathered on the flag court. After the principal's long-winded speech, Chloe walked onto the stage. She looked gaunt, her heavy makeup unable to conceal her exhaustion and swollen eyes. She held the microphone, her hand trembling. The whole court was utterly silent. I am Chloe Kim," she began, her voice faltering. "Today, I stand here to confess and apologize for my wrongful actions towards my classmate Luna." Then she recounted everything, from pouring dirty water into paintings, inciting others to ostracize, to reveling in the news of Luna's failed suicide attempt. Every word, every syllable, was like a knife plunging into her own pride. Below, whispers of astonishment rose. Chloe's image as a perfect goddess had completely crumbled, leaving only an ugly, cruel face exposed to the light. I stood in a hidden corner, silently observing. I felt no joy, no schadenfreude, only a cold emptiness in my heart. "Luna, do you see? Those who harmed you are now paying the price, but no matter how much they suffer, you still can't come back." Chloe's confession ended in chaos. Her family escorted her away from the school grounds amidst whispers and contemptuous glances. Her empire had completely collapsed, turning to dust after just one speech. I quietly left the crowd and walked towards our old house, where Luna and I once lived. The revenge play had concluded. Olivia was broken, Jason's reputation was ruined, Sarah was expelled and would carry the stain of plagiarism for life. Chloe was living a life worse than death in utter shame. I had won. I had gotten justice for my sister. But why did my chest feel so empty? I sat in Luna's cluttered room, hugging her cold urn of ashes. I had done everything I could, but my sister still couldn't come back. Her innocent smile, her gentle voice, all were just memories. Revenge didn't bring peace, it only carved a deeper hole of pain and solitude. Just then, the room door burst open. My mother stood there. For the first time in so long, she had come to find me on her own. She looked tired, but her eyes were full of anger and reproach. She gave me an alien look. "Luna, haven't you caused enough trouble?" She stormed in, her voice harsh. "Do you know that because of these petty school matters, the Kim family is pressuring Director Ju's company? Do you want this whole family to go bankrupt because of you?" She didn't even recognize me. In her eyes, I was still Luna, the troublesome daughter who had failed at suicide and returned to wreak havoc. My heart felt clutched by an invisible hand. "Family," I repeated, my voice hoarse. "Do you still consider this a family? Do you even remember you had a daughter named Luna? You, what kind of talk is that?" She recoiled from my attitude. "After that incident, you've become so strange. If I didn't care, then who paid for your hospital bills?" I let out a bitter laugh. "So, did you know that when she was most desperate, she called you? Did you know what she had to endure? Oh no, how could you? You were too busy with your new family, weren't you?" Every word I spoke was like a needle piercing her. Her face turned white. She stared at me, confusion and fear clear in her eyes. "What do you mean she? Aren't you talking about yourself?" "Ha, I'm not Luna." I laughed sardonically, slowly stood up, and took off my black-rimmed glasses. I swept aside my short, messy hair from my forehead, fully revealing Selina's sharp, cold eyes. My mother's mouth fell open, and she stumbled back as if seeing a ghost. She trembled, pointing at me. "Selina, why? Why is it you? Where's Luna? Where is she?" The moment she asked that question, I knew she genuinely didn't know anything. Perhaps she had only heard the news of my sister's failed suicide attempt, hurriedly called me, threw some money at me, and never bothered to ask again how the child was doing, dead or alive. I pointed to the cold ceramic urn on the desk. "She's here," I said, my voice eerily calm, cruel. "She died that very day. You didn't even know your own daughter had died." No, that's impossible." She staggered, her eyes wide, looking at the urn, then back at me. "The hospital said she was out of critical condition. I paid the fees. But what then? If you had visited her, maybe things would have been different. You think money can solve everything. Right, but only after everything is already broken." I looked at her with emotionless eyes. "You threw some money at her and washed your hands, believing you'd fulfilled your duty. You never truly cared about her. In your eyes, she was just a burden." The truth was laid bare, brutal and naked. Her weak excuses shattered. She collapsed, her cries breaking, filled with horror and belated regret. "I have avenged her. All those who harmed her have paid the price." I looked at her one last time. "From now on, I am no longer your daughter. Live well with your new family. Don't look for me, and don't concern yourself with Luna either." With that, I hugged Luna's urn, turned, and walked away without a single glance back. I left behind the sound of mournful cries, a mother drowning in a terrible truth, leaving all the painful past behind in that house. Despite successfully getting revenge, I miss my sister terribly. She is always in my thoughts.